Welcome to the Author's Porch, where every good conversation happens. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride from author to author. We want to give you an experience where you learn and enjoy the conversation. Authors tell you about their journey, you learn about new books, and at the end of the day, you go home with a smile on your face because the Author's Porch is a beacon of light, bringing you home to the family you never knew you had. We hope that you enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Author's Porch, where every great conversation happens. We are super excited to have the fabulous Tylia Flores here on the show with us tonight. How are you doing, Ty?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So before we came on the show, she told me that I could call her Ty, and the reason why I am choosing to do it is because one of my bestest friends ever in the world, I called her Ty, and I was talking to Tylia before we came on the show. I was in the military for 20 years, and she was actually my battle buddy in Afghanistan, and she's still in the military. She's about to retire, actually, and her name was Yolita Del Valle Ruiz from Puerto Rico, and Tylia has Puerto Rican roots as well, so which is super cool because we were already vibing before we even came on the show, y'all, which is super cool. I love when I can do that with a fellow author because we live these introverted lives. But we're going to learn more about Tylia. Let me give you a little bit of an introduction before we go into this organic conversation, because I'm already feeling this awesome vibe. So Tylia L. Flores is a cerebral palsy warrior who, despite her condition, is an author and radio personality, as well as a disability activist. And I have to tell you, after super stalking you over all the social media sites and websites and all the other places and listening to your radio show, you freaking rock, girl. Like, you are getting it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am super impressed by what you do.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Same here. Same here. It's so good to finally be on the Author's Porch.
Well, thank you. And I just love that you are not allowing anything to stop you. Like, you're going, okay, well, I have a condition. Well, you have a condition too. You are a blonde. That's your condition. You have green eyes. That's your condition. But guess what? We all get along and we all do things. Yeah,
exactly.
I love it.
And that's what I want people to understand when reading every piece of my literature. And it takes me back to when I was 16 years old and I first got published for the very first time. Fast forward, I'm 27 now, about to be 28, and I've written so many books. And the book that we're going to be talking about today brings a little bit of emotion to my eye, but you'll get the gist of why.
Yeah, I was looking at your works, and one of the things that you talk very candid about, and I was like, yes, girl, yes, let's talk about this, because you don't talk about it in the disability world. We don't talk about it in any world as females at all, and it's dating and intimacy.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what.
And this
go ahead.
And this book falls right into that.
So why this book and why this subject?
Okay, so this unexpected Crossroads was inspired by, let me take you guys back. So back 9 years ago, I was just 18 years old. I just started advocating. I shared my story online, and I winded up meeting a supporter of James Ticking Time Bomb because that was the only book I had at the time. And me and this person winded up falling in love, and we were in a long distance relationship for 5 years. But then throughout that time, we broke up, and things got pretty nasty between the two of us. But through that devastating journey and through that process of me falling in love, I met one of the sweetest ladies alive, and that was my adopted Aunt Pam from Texas. So, after me and the young fellow broke up, she kept in touch with me until the day she died.
Wow.
So he didn't keep in touch with me. The rest of the family didn't keep in touch with me, but she did. And she helped me get out of my depression that I was in after he left me, because I was dealing with depression, anxiety. I didn't know where to go to. Like, months leading up to the breakup, I was a mess. Like, I had to go see a psychologist because I thought at the age of 23 my life was over. I'm going to be in this wheelchair forever. And then I started sabotaging like relationship and things. And when you're going through a depression, you don't realize that's what you're doing, but you're doing it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, as I went to go receive help for my mental illnesses, my ex did not want me to go seek help for
Mm.
my mental illnesses because he thought it was all in my head. So there goes that. But Aunt
Yeah.
Pam was just very supportive. And to the day she died in 2020, she kept in touch with me and my family. And that's where the story of unexpected crossroads come in. And that's the story of Emily and Carter
Mm.
and how it all came to be.
I love that because I think a lot of people say it's all in your head. Well, that's what mental illness is. It is all in
Mhm.
your head. You're absolutely right. And I've been very open about my struggle with depression. I suffer from depression uh, due to many different things in my life, and I always advocate for people to get support because we all go through different things. And I think it's a lovely journey that you were able to get that support through your Aunt Pam, and now you're writing about this journey with your characters.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about your characters?
So Emily Rose Baker, she is just like me. She's a 16-year-old girl living in Florida, but she goes to Jersey to visit her dad for a visitation visit, like, one of those court order things. And she has a blog called Stomping Out CP, and she's not expecting to meet someone that's like her. And then she meets Carter Austin Paddington at a party, which was Aunt Billie Jean's nephew that she took care of and she raised because he has no parents. And bada boom, bada bam, they fall in love.
Love it. Love that. I think it's beautiful because people look at people with disabilities, with visible disabilities, and sometimes they don't see the person, they see the disability. What do
And
you say to them?
I say you need to be the first thing I do is I educate them with an article I wrote or a book I wrote that relates to the issue. And then I say you need to stop being closed-minded and look that there's beauty in every disability, and you shouldn't define or judge a person based on their inabilities. You should focus on the possibilities that they can give you and guide you through life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So me and my husband met online, and we were good friends for 6 years before we met in person. And then once we actually met in person, we've been inseparable ever since. So I feel your journey of meeting somebody online, but I have social anxiety, and I don't hardly ever leave the house. I'm very open about my mental health journeys and things, but I'm more comfortable sitting in the house or talking online. If I met you in person, I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't say anything to you. And it has nothing to do with disability. It's because I'm not comfortable in close proximity of people. But when I get in virtual, I'm a chatty Cathy.
Yeah, because you're in that
Yeah.
element. I say I'm both. I'm really sociable in real life and online. So what you get is what you get here, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that because what what you're doing with your radio show, your books, and just your personality is you're letting people know is we're all different. Get to know somebody and learn about them. Don't just look and judge.
Exactly, and that's why I started writing about cerebral palsy at the age of um 16, 18 years old, because I was just tired of the misconceptions. And growing up, I didn't see a lot of representation of myself in books. So now as an adult, I have the opportunity to be someone else's representation. It's just like the representation I didn't have growing up. So now I could give the same 16-year-old girl that's going through the same thing her own representation. Like, and that's what I hope young girls see in Emily, and that's what I hope young men see in Carter Austin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they each symbolize something.
Absolutely. So you are my second guest on the show with a cerebral palsy. My first guest, she used a device to speak with me. And it was beautiful because we were communicating, whereas if you think 20 years ago, we would have never been able to communicate or
And
share messages across the airwaves.
yeah, and that's the greatest thing about technology now and AAC devices. I actually have another romance book called I Love You in a Special Way, where the young man by the name of Kane Walker uses an AAC device and he falls in love with his teacher. And they wind up being together.
Wow. That's super cool.
So there's a lot. But Unexpected Crossroads, Aunt Pam was the inspiration for that book, and yeah, she was a great, just as much as I described Aunt Billie Jean in that book, where she's wise, she's older, she's caring. That's exactly how Aunt Pam was,
Hmm.
exactly how she was, and the way Carter and Emily are. That's exactly how me and her nephew were inseparable until all this stuff happened,
Yeah.
and a lot of people have asked me, are you upset at the nephew? And I say no, because he gave me the gift of Pam.
Oh,
So with that, I thank him, and I hope that one day we do get to speak again. The door is always opened.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think we all, as women, we go through different loves, and sometimes we find one, and it's the one. Some people are lucky.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I was married and divorced, had two kids with my first husband, and now I'm married to the love of my life, and I'm lucky, that I was able to find him. After, we met online and stuff. But I think that there's a journey in there and self discovery in
Yeah.
all of it. And I was listening to one of your, I think it was on your YouTube channel. You talk about the intimacy level and how you have that intimacy with yourself and learning about yourself and learning who you are in this whole entire process.
Hmm.
Can you talk more about learning about yourself and
Well,
what you, go ahead, sorry.
Well, as a writer and as a person with CP, it took me a while to accept that I had CP. So that's why it took me so long to start writing about CP.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I throughout this writing process, it's helped me learn how to love myself for who I am. Like each and every day, I have a journal that I write letters to my CP, and I hope to release the book by the time I'm 40. And it talks about like all the things I love about my disability instead of the negative.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So, what is the biggest message of Unexpected Crossroads?
the biggest message of Unexpected Crossroads is never be afraid to be yourself, because you never know who you're going to meet out there. You never know who you're going to impact.
That's so true. That's so
So,
true. That's a beautiful message because everybody has a message to share with the world.
mhm.
What's your message?
My message is that despite the obstacles and challenges you may face, you still could write your story. and only you have the opportunity to write your story. No one else does.
Yeah. So you said you started writing at the age of 16. Did you
Yeah.
always know you were going to be a writer?
No, actually, that started off with another tragedy in my life.
Oh,
I had lost a friend to cancer, and I discovered that writing was the only thing that was going to help me through that. And then a year later, I published James Ticking Time Bomb. So,
mm. Is that something that you always go back to whenever you go through a hard time?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I that's one of the things that got me through the hardest points in my life as well is writing, and just sometimes it's free writing, just speaking my emotions onto a piece of paper.
Hmm.
It's very trustworthy, isn't it?
Yeah, very trustworthy because writing's the best way to let go of everything.
Yeah. So, what about your radio show?
Well, my radio show airs on Asheville FM.
Uh-huh.
Hold on one sec. So, hold on one second. What was the question?
Your radio show, and you're perfectly fine because you may end up hearing my dogs bark at some
Oh
point in the
yeah,
show.
my dog's barking too. He hurt his paw, and they're trying to
Oh,
fix it.
bless. Oh, I've got five. So they are part of the Author's Porch family. And we've got Dobby over here. Luckily, he doesn't speak. So trust me, it gets kind of crazy on the Author's Porch. So let that baby bark.
Yeah, he it's a miniature schnauzer. His name is Hobbs, and hope to
Hobbs.
publish I hope to publish a children's book with him soon. Like,
Yes, that was my first book that I ever wrote was about my dogs and their travels because they traveled all around the world with us, and it was a children's book. So you have to do it because
yeah,
people love
definitely,
them.
definitely, I have to do that. So back to my radio show. My radio show airs on Asheville FM once a month at 7:30 in the morning. For those of you that are up early. And basically, I use radio as a canvas to tell my story with country music. Sometimes I go the 80s route, but it depends on the day.
Ah, that's my jam. So I'm a country music fan. Like that's what I
Hmm.
listen to. I'm a country music lover. 90s country music was where I grew up.
Yeah, that's the best kind of music. In the early 2000s, most definitely.
Yeah.
And that's actually where Carter got his middle name because I'm a huge Blake Shelton fan, and the song
Right.
Austin has helped me through a lot. So that's where he got his name, Carter Austin Pennington.
Oh,
So that's where he got his full name, and Carter was because Nick Carter and Aaron Carter.
right.
So I combined those two together, and that's how he got his name. Emily got her name from the book Emma by Jane Austen, and her middle name Rose she got from Roseanne Barr.
So you have an old soul because you are only 27. I'm 45, but you're talking about all the stuff that I grew up on.
Yeah, I'm really old school. Like my favorite television show is the Andy Griffith Show, Gunsmoke, Gonzo, the Brady Bunch. Like
Oh my God.
if you were to come over to my house, all you'll see is like all the shows from like the 70s and the 80s and the 50s and the 40s. Like right now I'm watching the Doris Day show. I was watching it earlier today and I was like, this is the type of TV shows I miss, and I watch Andy Griffith every night before I go to bed. That's a
Yeah.
must.
So I watch the Golden Girls
Oh, me
because
too.
I don't know what it is about those old white ladies. I have like this thing about, I'm sorry, but they just crack me up. Them.
Yeah.
So we lost, and then the Queen
We
of
lost
England. I
Betty
love
White.
all of them. Yeah, she
Yeah,
just
I love all I love all of them.
yeah. I watch them over and over and
Yeah,
over, and I was obsessed.
the way Blanche throws shade in Sophia. Have you seen the spin-off Golden Plaza?
Yeah, Golden Palace. Yes. And
I
Dorothy
love
didn't
it.
go over to Golden Palace. Dorothy just gave up.
Stayed behind. But
Mhm.
I loved it, and I'm so mad it only went for one season.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
thing is, people aren't used to reboots, but that's mostly where I get my writing inspiration from too. Is like my childhood, the TV shows I watched, everything that I've gone through.
Yeah.
That's where I get my inspiration from each character that I write about.
You, and I think so the characters on those type of TV shows had such depth. Like they had these very interesting integral stories. And if you're getting inspiration from that, that means your characters have oomph. I don't know how to explain that oomph, that
Yeah, like
depth, like the grit, that will to survive through the test of time.
Yeah, like honestly, a lot of people ask me, "How do you come up with so many ideas so fast? How do you come up with your characters?" Well, usually this is how it is. I think of a time period in my life that it has truly affected me. Like I'm in the middle of writing a tween series called the Not So Typical series. I don't know if you saw that,
Mm-mm.
where it's about a teenage boy with cerebral palsy that discovers his passion for writing, and then in the second book he goes to camp, and then the fourth book he fails his history exam, and then the fifth book he's a full grown adult, which is the draft I'm working on currently. And people have asked me, where do you get your inspiration from? I say real life experiences, just like unexpected crossroads. It was a real experience that I went through in my life. It was sad for me to process not having my first love there anymore, and then after losing Aunt Pam, that was really hard. Like I remember the night before her funeral, my mom comes in to hug me because I was sad about it, and she's like, "Well, why don't you write a book, the story on how you met her?" And that's what I did.
Yeah. Wow. What's now that Unexpected Crossroads is out there? How long has it been out?
A year. And there's actually a prequel to that called The Unexpected Gift, where it talks about Carter's upbringing and how he felt not having his biological parents and being raised by his great aunt because both his parents are in jail for drug possession charges for, snorting the marijuana trafficking. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
I don't know if I could say it on here, but yeah, it's a really good Christmas book, and it shows kids the meaning of appreciating the little things that you have. Like
Wow.
he wanted a Game Boy for Christmas and he didn't get it. So Aunt Billie Jean is so fed up that she sends him to a farm far out in the country so that he can learn his lesson.
Uh, well, yeah. I've been there. I've been sent to the country to learn my lesson. Oh, it seems I didn't turn one of my phones off. Sorry about that.
And
I
he has,
told you you're going to hear something over here on this end.
yeah,
This is the Wild West
almost.
over here.
And he stays with this family called the Brownies, Tyrone Brownie and his two kids, Jaden and Tina, and he Jolie and Jaden, and he learns to appreciate the fact that he has an aunt that loves him.
Yeah. I think when something's taken away from you, you tend to appreciate it a lot more when you get shown the tough stuff in life. What's your next big project? What you said you're currently working on something. Is that your next big project, or is that kind of
That
something simmering?
that that's a mini project, but I'm also working on a my last and final romance novel. So this will be my last and final romance novel because I kind of want to get into other genres. I'm working on a book currently called Dear Justin, and it is about an obese boy with cerebral palsy that he's desperate to find a friend because he gets bullied, right? So
Mm,
his sister Kennedy sets him up with a girl that she knows at her school because she lives in New York, and the girl, Bianca, has cerebral palsy. She's 16 years old, but she's been in the foster care system her whole life, so she finds no joy. And then her and Justin start writing letters back and forth, and they find joy in each other, and they fall in love, and she finally gets to live her dream to go to Disney World and ride Dumbo.
Like, I want to go to Disney World and ride Dumbo. I'm
Yeah,
such a kid at heart. I
me
love
too.
I love that you write characters based off of what you live and feel. And I write characters off of what I live and feel. Like, I write tortured characters because I have this tortured soul inside of me.
Mhm.
Even though I'm smiling all the time, I feel tortured a lot of times. Even though I'm happy, but there's like another side of me that feels tortured, and I get that out in my writing. And you get to write about the things that you feel and that you see and that you know is going on in the world, and it makes it so much more alive and vivid.
Mhm. Like
And
the inspiration for Dear Justin came from, how I felt as a kid growing up and getting bullied and having cerebral palsy, it also, the inspiration for that came from what I hear other teenagers emailing me about the same problem. I have no friends because I have CP and I'm obese, and I'm like, this could make a great book, and it's so relatable because
yeah,
bullying when you have a disability is a huge problem, and having self-esteem issues is
yes,
a huge problem. Like, I remember when I drafted this book out, and I was getting my team together, and they're like, why don't you make him skinny? If he's obese, no one's gonna read it. I'm like, you'll be surprised, people are gonna read this because there's an obese child out there with cerebral palsy.
yep. And then they're going to read it, they're going to connect with it, and they're going to not feel alone.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of literature, and that's why you have to write it. That's why you have to connect with them, because we've got to make sure that nobody feels alone in the world, and that's so beautiful.
Hmm. And that they have the proper representation. Like, I just published another book in the beginning of May called The Secret Diaries of Alexis Japper. She doesn't have cerebral palsy or anything, but she's a radio show host personality in the year 2001, and she suffers from mental illness.
Yeah,
And ultimately, the mental illness, regardless of how good she has it, winds up killing her.
that that happens too often in this world.
And a lot of people said to me, they're like, why would you make a book like that? I'm like, because it's the reality. It was happening in the 2000s, it was happening in the late 90s. It's just that nobody talked about it as we do now.
Yeah, you have to open the conversation, you have to be honest, and you have to provide an outlet for people to
Hmm.
connect, and
Hmm.
for a way for them to heal.
And that's like my other book, Perpetual Love Through the Eyes of a Teenage Girl. The main character, Donald, because he couldn't be with Talia anymore, commits suicide. And
Mm,
then Talia winds up going to jail for many years and fighting her innocence, and eventually his mother comes around and she serves the rest of Talia's time because the mother was the guilty one
wow, wow.
of isolating her son and telling her son, well, you can't do anything because you're a paraplegic, and you got into this accident, and you can't be with that one girl that makes you happy.
Mm. And those are conversations that are happening behind closed doors, and your books are breaking open those conversations so that they it can be realized in the real world and outside of those closed doors. Now, you recently did a documentary, correct? I saw that you
Yeah.
recently did a documentary. How was that?
That was actually really fun. Well, a couple months ago, TV reached out to me. They're like, Tylia, we read your articles. We want to film your life story. And we just went to filming for 5 months. So
Wow.
that little 5 minute clip that you guys saw took me 5 months. But 2 days before the documentary was supposed to be released. Now my ex-girlfriend broke up with me
Ah,
out of the blue. So as this documentary is coming out, people were excited about it. I'm dealing with the breakup. So you want to know what I did? I decided I was going to write a book about this whole experience, because what better thing could I do? And it's called Sexy and with Cerebral Palsy, and that is available on Amazon. And I documented the whole experience from day one
wow.
to day. What day is it? Well, I documented the whole experience of what I was feeling at the time, and I published it recently, because you want to know, it's the truth and it's raw, and I don't lie to my readers. I'm like, whatever it is I'm going through, you guys are gonna know about it.
And that's good because there's going to be somebody out there that doesn't have the boldness that you do.
Like
Doesn't
my
have, go ahead.
it was funny, because like everybody's calling me, they're grieving, they're crying, because me and my ex were the it couple for this community. They're calling me, they're crying, they're grieving. I'm like, guys, I'm fine, you're gonna be okay too, just check out the book, you'll be fine. And they're like, but like, how come you're not crying? I said, you want to know something? It was the experience. I learned from it. I thank her for the experience. But now it's time for me to embrace this new life. You
Yeah,
know, I can't, like, and that's the thing. Writing is never gonna break up with me. So like, if I'm sad or something, I'm not gonna cry about it for days. I'm gonna pick myself back up, and I'm gonna stomp on it, and I'm gonna write about it, and I'm gonna be true. And whoever likes it, and whoever doesn't. But at least I made an impact on someone.
yeah. Tell, tell you have such a resilient spirit, and it's so refreshing to see it because there's people that don't even have a mustard seed of the things that you have to experience in your life or have experienced in your life. And they sit and complain and are paralyzed to even wake up in the morning. And what would you say? How can you motivate them to go, get up and go?
I would say, okay, you're in this situation. You know you're in this situation. Instead, and it's okay for you to have disabled grief. I have it all the time based on my situation. But what's not okay is if you stay in that same mindset and you continue to let it marinate. It's like marinating a beni. So instead of leaving the negative beni to marinate with all the fat, you clean it up and you do something about it. And it's up to you. It's not up to everybody else. It is up to you to make the difference in your life. And it doesn't matter if you're a writer or not. You still have to tell your story. You still have to get up and go talk to people, meet people. Maybe you'll meet a protagonist, maybe you'll meet antagonists. But that is okay, because that is a part of life. That is a part of the journey. If my life was easy, then I probably wouldn't have a story to tell, because it would be boring. Be like, okay, I went through this obstacle, but I defeated it by this way, and it was really fast. No,
Yeah,
obstacles aren't meant to be defeated really fast. They're meant that way you can grow, you know?
yeah, yeah. And you're absolutely right. And I put a little quote here for you that people can look to clean it up. Talia Flores
Thank
discussing your mindset.
thank you so
So,
much.
you know, everybody has a story, and it's your story that makes you absolutely unique. And you are one fantastically unique individual, Talia. And I know that people are going to cling to your message. They need to go and follow you. I've also added your website in here, taliaflores.com. For it's a clickable link here on YouTube and Facebook. So everybody go follow Talia. Go check out her books. Learn from her message, from her resiliency, Also, check out her radio show and her YouTube channel so you could see the different things that she's getting into. I've had a fantastic time. I've learned so much. I know this is not going to be our last time talking. At least I hope not, because I think,
Definitely not.
we've connected. I think there's a lot that we need to talk about still. Um, but I like to talk, obviously. So I want to make sure we give you a moment here before we head out for the night. Is there anything we did not discuss that you want to
Oh,
get out
oh,
to our audience?
well, I'm working on pitching a television show
What?
called Disabled Life, and it features four teenagers going through life in the city of Plantation, Florida, where I grew up mostly. And I just got the illustrations for it, and I'm really excited to pitch it to a network.
Nice.
So that is my next step.
Wow. I like it. Well, I wish you all the luck. And you know what? Speak it to life every single day, and we'll see it gracing the TV soon for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And everybody that knows me, as I always say at the end of every show, despite the obstacles and challenges you face, keep on stomping on CP. This is Tylia Flores here,
Thank you.
and we're out.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye, Talia.
Bye.